start meeting. Yeah, so we're live now. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and call this special meeting of the Student Senate to order at 4:03 p.m. So, first things on our agenda, we've got revisions. I don't have any revisions to bring. We also can't do that many revisions since it is a special meeting. Any revisions anyone's proposing? No, okay, great. We can go to consent items. We don't have anything because I think our minutes are still in the works for last week. So we'll get those at the beginning of next quarter. Next thing we have is I believe there's supposed to be. I honestly am trying to read this and can't. But 1 second. It looks like we're missing public forum. It doesn't look like anyone's here, so it's fine. But I'll just give it a second in case someone is here and it's broken. There's a Q&A thing, which it doesn't look like anyone said anything in. So we're going to go ahead and move on from public forum. To information items guests, which we don't have any. Action items guests, we don't have any. So we'll start with info items, Senate food security referendum. Lily, do you want to talk about that for a few minutes? Oh, you're muted.
First audio check. Good hearing? Awesome, fantastic. I doubt this will take the full 5 minutes allotted. I just wanted to get people up to speed before we take a couple weeks without seeing each other. This is the current rough draft of a potential referendum that we're trying to propose to institute a modest student fee. We're bouncing around funding dollar amounts between $1, maybe $2 a quarter, maybe more, maybe less, to go towards food security. Our initiative, we landed on doing money straight to the on-campus food pantries as the destination for this fund, the destination and the mechanism administered by the Whole Food Pantry. And yeah, it's coming along pretty good. We thought we were going to need to vote on it today, but in the election code, which we're about to approve, we have more time. So this will be coming back up at our next meeting. Currently, I'm looking for more data, more recent data to try and update the statistics we have and just see more feedback. We're going to be meeting with members of the executive board on Friday because they have a parallel referendum, and we're going to talk about unifying those things, seeing how they interact with each other. But I really wanted to get people's students' feedback here in the Senate to see if anybody has any thoughts on potential, like what amount of money do y'all think you would be comfortable voting on, or any thoughts, any feelings, any frustrations? And with that, I open to a couple of questions with a minute or two left. Fantastic. Okay, yeah. Well, that's all I've got. Oh, Devin?
Oh, yeah, I'll bring you on screen, Devin.
Yeah, I had actually a question for Leona, because I feel like she would know this. Leona, who actually gets charged the fees? Is it full-time equivalent students, or is it all students from our head count?
That's a good question. I would have to look up the SNA fees and like all of that stuff. I mean, because there's certain things that like don't get charged unless you take enough credits. So I don't know. I think I'd have to look into it a little bit. Are you asking because you're wondering like how are you trying to figure out like how many students are going to have to pay this fee and like therefore how much money you would generate? Is that the question? Or
Yeah.
If I may speak to this, yeah, with this fee, it wouldn't be all students. It would be students on the Bellingham campus exclusively, and there is a mechanism to filter folk out for that. It would be full-time students on the campus, basically the same pot that students that pay into the legislative action fee, and it would be all students. It's voluntary in the fact that students are volunteering to elect it, but once it's elected, all students have to pay it. Is a new revelation. Miguel?
I had similar question to Devin, but also would the money generated from this go into the already existing food insecurity network? Would it be a different program? And how would that be split among the different food pantries on Western's campus?
That is a good question. It wouldn't go towards the Food Insecurity Network at all. That's a club who they're doing some great stuff, but it would be going to the food pantries, which a lot of them are ad hoc kind of ran, but they all have ties more or less with the whole pantry. So the money would go to the whole pantry with provisions that it is dispersed to all recognized food pantries on campus in a manner seen fit by whole food pantry, because sometimes they some of them are inactive, sometimes new ones come up. So yeah, it'd be administered by whole.
All right, I think that's all the questions we have. I want to just throw one last one in the pot. Sort of on the logistics of a fee. My concern would be if I think in its current form, or at least when I read it last, it was talking about like you could opt out of the fee just yourself during the year, not like through the vote. If that's not the case, then it's not really an issue. But if that were to still be the case, I would be wondering, does that mean that it would still be covered by the financial aid or whatever that sometimes I think is restricted to like what's mandatory or whatever? So that's just a question to figure out at some point.
I have the answer just for 15 seconds. Previously, the language said a voluntary fee is all that we can institute, but in talks with Adam, it's become clear that voluntary only means that we can volunteer to like elect it, but then once we do, all students have to pay it. There's no opt out. So I pulled the language in the last day or so, providing for that.
Okay, yeah, that adds clarity. Thank you. All right, then I think we can move on. So our next item is, I believe, I think we're moving on to our action items, since we don't have any discussion items. So we'll go to the position descriptions. Those ones are the first two documents. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to look at these. These are in basically the same form as last time. The goal is not to make any big content edits. It's all about formatting and conciseness, basically. There have been some changes. I think I'll have Luna speak to a few of some of the body ones, but I'll talk, if you go to the very bottom of both of them, there is a new administrative note, which talks about how the wage might change based on the budget and how there's an exemption from civil service. That's just there. And then another one that we're going to add is a clause that is, I'll copy it into the chat. That will make it the easiest. That sort of reflects the collective bargaining process. And that's in chat. The contents of the position description are or may change during the term of appointment due to an ongoing collective bargaining process. Adam and Leon are good with that. Kara is good with that one also. And yeah, I think there's a few other edits that Leon, if you want to speak to.
Yeah, after the Senate meeting last week and hearing y'all's feedback, I just did a couple edits based on what y'all were thinking. So specifically for the AS Senate President position, instead of saying like the AS Senate President must serve on these committees, and then listing a bunch, it says the AS Senate President must serve on, and then there's just the 2 or 3 there that the president needs to sit on, and then the rest say or will designate, something like that. So the language there is a bit more clear. And then yeah, for the senator job description, I changed the language around the bullet point or the sentence about meeting with the dean to be a little bit less, I don't know, hard and fast and prescriptive, if you will. So yeah, I think it's more reflective of like the actual work that y'all are doing. So, and again, that was based on, I think, Lola's feedback from the Senate meeting last week.
All right, any questions on the position descriptions? Doesn't look like there's any questions. Then I would welcome a motion to approve the Senate and Senate President, or Senator and Senator, can't speak, the position descriptions.
Esteve has motions to approve.
All right, moved. Is there any
Moreno
is there a
seconds.
Okay, moved by Esteve, seconded by Moreno. Is there any discussion on the motion? Does not look like it. All right, all those in favor of approving the position descriptions, say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? And I'm just going to assume, since I did not make it clear how we were going to vote, I'll just assume that if there are no one's said nay or oy for the abstentions, and there isn't any of that in the chat, so I'm assuming that it's a unanimous vote of however many people are in here. Yeah. All right, we'll move on then to or I guess maybe I should say that means that the motion carries and that the position descriptions are now approved. So we'll move on to the elections code. And I believe Mallory from the OCE is here to that end. Okay. Oh, there we go. Mallory, I don't know if you want to speak to the elections code.
I can talk about the elections code. Hi, my name is Mallory, she, they pronouns. I'm the Office of Civic Engagement Director. Usually the elections coordinator would be here, but he is not, somewhere else, I suppose. I think he's in class. Yeah, so this is the elections code. I'm hoping that all of you have had a chance to look at this. Yeah, every year there's an elections code that needs to get passed by the Senate and the exec board before the elections can begin to take place. The most substantial edit we made this time around, I would say, would probably be adding in everywhere that it's, so a little bit of context here, I suppose. The elections code was created by the combining of two separate documents a couple of years back, and there is still a little bit of like leftover residual verbal debris, I guess you could call it. And so a lot of what we did was like going through and fixing that. There were a lot of places in the code that said that things only needed to be passed through the exec board, but that is not true anymore. So we added in student senate in there as well for all of those places that had only the exec board's approval being necessary. Yeah, do we want to like scroll through it? It is 29 pages, so just be aware of that. Are there any sections that people want me to like highlight going through, or questions or anything?
Yeah, Mallory, could you speak to I think one thing that had been sort of interest to some senators was the filing deadlines. Could you speak to those?
Yeah, would we be able to scroll down?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you know what part of it it's on?
Filing deadlines are in a couple different places. The one that you're probably looking for is in Article. We could start in Article 1 and go down, I suppose. Probably a little bit in 1 and 3. So filing, there was some like pretty ambiguous language used around filing, I won't lie. A lot of them were like, I don't know, it was like there were dates where there didn't need to be dates, like June 1st and things like that. And like the academic calendar changes every year. It's kind of fluid. So we changed everything to like at least 7 calendar days. Or I believe there are a couple instances where it says like 5 school days instead. We really tried to take out ambiguity wherever there was ambiguity. And there were a lot of places that said like filing period, but it was unclear if that meant like candidate filing or referenda filing. So we changed that as well. We can scroll down, I think, probably.
What page?
Let me see. I have it pulled up on my computer too. Mhm. 7?
This one?
Yeah, that's where like the candidate eligibility starts. There might be something about deadlines there, like candidate filing deadlines. But if nobody's seeing anything there, we can scroll down to 8. Yeah, with campaigning and advertising is probably kind of a big one as well. Okay, I don't see anything about it there. Gabe, was there any like specific sections that you remember people having questions about?
No, I have not done a like thorough sort of look into this. Sort of trust the OC to handle it. I think, from my understanding, this version of the elections code conforms all the filing periods to be the same for initiatives, referendums, and candidates. And
Yes, yeah. So there was a weird thing written before that was like ballot initiatives, which includes like student initiatives and AS government referendum. That said that like that deadline was the first day of the filing, like the candidate filing period, and we changed that. So all of them have the same deadline now. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Are there any? Oh, Devin looks like he has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did have a question on Article 1, Section 3 for the, I believe that's the voting period. It says that voting for elective offices, initiatives, and referenda shall begin at 12 a.m. on the first day. So I was just wondering when that first day is. Is that like the first day after the 7 days after campaigns start, or?
This will be the first day of the voting period, which is a 5 to 7 day period that changes per year. So like I honestly don't even know when it's going to be this year, but sometime in probably like May.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't want to put again like dates in there because of the fluidity of quarter per quarter.
Yeah.
Or like year to year, I guess it would be. Yeah, does that answer the question at all?
Yeah, a little bit. When does the voting, that 5 to 7 voting period start? Like relative to the other events?
Yeah, so the voting period, so it goes like candidate filing is like a big long chunk of time. And then there's the mandatory candidate filing or the mandatory candidate meeting, which talks about it like goes through the elections code and talks about what you can and can't do in terms of campaigning and other important information about like deadlines and finances and public financing questions that people might have. And then after the mandatory candidate meeting, that is when the campaign period starts. And then the campaign period, this is where things get a little dicey. Like if the elections code gets passed early and things can progress in like a comfortable time, The campaign period will hopefully be like 3-ish weeks, so that gets like a lot of publicity out about elections happening, and that gives everybody running for office ample time to really like get their message out about what they're trying to do for the students. And then after the campaign period ends, the voting period will begin. And the voting period is like the end of it. But you can campaign through the voting period as well, which is, I think, part of the reason it's a little bit confusing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I would just suggest maybe adding some wording in there to say that. I think other than that, you guys did a fantastic job. Like that's like my thing. Yeah.
Right. Any other questions on the code? Okay, doesn't look like that. I guess, Devin, I'll bring you back on for a second. Is there suggested language that you want to propose for an amendment right now? We do have to pass this today. So I don't know if we don't have actual language, I wouldn't really think it's the best idea to try to add some.
Yeah. You said, Mallory, you said there's 3 weeks of campaigning and then the voting period begins, or is that like
yeah, that's the hope, but it changes year to year, so that's what we're hoping for this year. But if something were to like, the hope with any elections code is that it's lasting. We don't want to have to edit it every year, because like, say we pass it with the language of like, oh, this year we have 3 weeks, but then next year something like catastrophic happens and there's no campaign period at all, then it's like, oh, we would have to go and change that to say like no campaign period. Does that make sense? Because then we wouldn't, if we were to pass it with the 3-week stipulation this year, then that would have to like last for next year.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Maybe I don't know. The best I got right now is like on the first day following some time during the campaign period. But I mean, yeah, that's the best I have, at least right now. I don't think it should stop us from approving it, because I think we could just fix it later. So
Yeah.
I think after this year's elections code gets passed, the elections coordinator, Isaac, is going to like start up a document about proposed edits for like next year. So if you wanted to talk to him about any ideas that you have, like, I think that he would be super down to talk to multiple sources and get like more input earlier on, if that sounds like something you'd be interested in. He's here pretty often in the office.
yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Sounds like that's sort of handled. I do want to sort of keep us moving. Is there a motion to approve the elections code?
The motions to approve the elections code.
Right, no seconds.
Okay, moved by Din, seconded by Moreno. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve the elections code? Does not look like it. All right. Then all those in favor, let's do voting in chat this time. That'll just make it easier. Yeah, all those in favor, say aye in chat. All those opposed, type nay. And if you have any abstentions, you can just type abstain? Okay, it looks like we've got unanimous ayes, so that motion carries, and the election code is approved by the Student Senate. All right, thank you, Mallory.
Yay! Thank you guys. Thank you everybody. Have a great day. Thanks, Gabe. Bye.
Bye, Mallory. All right, moving on then. We've got the confirmation of the Fairhaven senator. So for this one, I'll sort of talk a little bit about our process so far. It was not the cleanest process as in comparison to some of our other ones, but that's fine. We interviewed 2 candidates, and we had a really hard time deciding. And when I say we, let me clarify. All of our hiring processes require, per the bylaws, me, Daisy, and Nellie. But the hiring committee was me, Daisy, Nellie, and Leona. And Miguel was in some of the interviews, but wasn't as involved this time around. So that's what I'm talking about when I say we. Our sort of first meeting about which one we should pick between was sort of qualitatively, we're like, these are both good candidates, and we don't think one is like a whole lot better than the other one. Like they're sort of on equal, like an equal playing field. So we turned to numbers, and what we found was, if I can pull this up, give me a second, probably should have done this earlier. I believe it was something like, it was like a 2-point difference when we took the sums of all of, it was like a 40 something to 40 whatever plus 2. But I'll find the exact numbers for you guys if it loads in my Teams here.
Yeah, it was like 2.5-point difference.
Okay, 2.5. Yeah. So the one candidate that we're suggesting, we're hoping to have the Senate confirm, is Emily. Yeah, with like that had that 2.5-point sort of advantage there. Also, when we looked at sort of which across all the sections, who was like number one in the most sections, it was also Emily. So that's why we're comfortable with that decision. Yeah. Are there any questions about that? Look like there are any questions. I will check chat just to make sure, because okay. All right, then if there's no questions, I would welcome a motion to confirm Emily Karsten as the next Fairhaven senator.
Miranda motions to confirm the next Fairhaven senator.
Okay, is there a second?
Hardgrove seconds.
Okay, moved by Moreno, seconded by Hardgrove. Any discussion on the motion to confirm Emily?
I do have one thing. I think we should like reach out to the other person. I don't know who's the best to do this, but we should like give them like maybe feedback, because it sounds like it was really close, and so I feel like we should mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always appreciate getting feedback. So yeah.
I will be sending out all the emails as soon as we adjourn. And yeah, we had talked about that. I think that's been our process so far, is just making sure to give people the opportunity for feedback, and also sort of encourage them and be responsive, so we're not leaving anyone hanging in the dark.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah. All right. Any more discussion on the motion? No. All right. All those in favor, say aye in the chat. Oh yeah, and then any opposed say nay, any abstentions, note that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with 1 abstention, which I believe covers the 2/3 we need. Yeah, 12 is what we need. All right, so that motion carries, and we'll be appointing or confirming Emily as the next Fairhaven senator. Moving on, we've got the constitutional referendum. I believe this is the last document. Yes. So it'll look a little different from last time. I went ahead and just grabbed a clean transcribed version of the Constitution and manually put in the track changes so it would make more sense. So we've basically, honestly, we've seen this so many times. This is basically the same exact form as it came before you last time. I made a couple like grammar edits and like added commas and deleted commas because once I sort of did it this way, a lot of tiny errors showed themselves. Yeah, there isn't a whole lot more to discuss about this. Yeah, I don't know. We can, if there's questions sort of about it, I'll speak to the referendum process a little bit more. We are, when it comes to a referendum, supposed to sort of vote on, I think, the language of the question that we're proposing. I think that that's something that the sort of, like me and Kieran, Daisy, and Aaron haven't fully talked through yet. I had some proposed language, but since we just passed the elections code, and I'm assuming the exec board's going to pass it with that different filing deadline, I don't see it being absolutely necessary to approve the language of the question for the ballot today. So I'm thinking that we just sort of approve the language of the Constitution today, and then we can have that sort of settled. Are there sort of questions about that or about the constitutional amendment? No? Okay. I guess I will add one last bit of context, which is last time I had mentioned that we had forgotten to put finance council in. I don't think that was we forgot that. I think that was intentional last time. It was also talked about in the executive board, and Adam, the advisors to the exec board, sort of pointed out that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to include the finance council in the constitution, because then if we like want to change sort of how we do sort of the fiscal governance of the AS, then we have to go to the students and get them to approve it. And like these things are not things that materially impact students that much. Like how are the decisions being made specifically? Like what's this structure? Like I think generally making just so that sort of seemed outside the purview of the Constitution. Yeah. But if there aren't any questions, then I would welcome a motion to approve the, I don't know, what's it? I guess approve the, this isn't interesting. I don't know. So does someone help me out with this, how we should word this one? Because we're like not approving the Constitution because it's supposed to go to the students.
Approve the proposed Constitution.
Okay, that's what we'll go with. Or did someone want to make that motion?
Moreno motions to approve the proposed Constitution.
Okay, it's been moved. Any seconds?
Hardgrove motions to approve the proposed Constitution. Or second.
Okay. Moved by Moreno, seconded by Hardgrove. Any discussion on the motion? Does not look like it. Double check chat. No? Okay. All right, all those in favor of approving the proposed constitution, say aye. If you're opposed, say nay. Did I say opposed twice? If you're in favor, say aye. If you're opposed, say nay. If you want to abstain, say that in the chat. We just need a simple majority here for the referendum, which it looks like we've got unanimous vote here. So that motion carries, and we've approved the proposed constitution. All right. That is, I believe, everything on our agenda. Yeah, there are Senate reports. I could mention a couple things, but I don't want to. I want to leave. It's not that timely. Is there anything really important that people need to share before spring break that they want to share? I will open it up. No? Okay, fantastic. Then we're going to go to other business. I don't believe. Oh, spring meeting. Thank you, Nellie. Thank you for this reminder. We will be having our Senate meetings from 5 to 6:30 on Wednesdays. It was very close, but there was a slight favoring towards Wednesdays. So that's what we'll be going with. Yeah, and our first meeting will be on the 3rd, and there'll be every other one. So we'll have 5 meetings in total, regular meetings scheduled. If we need any more, I can call a special meeting like we did today. But yeah, that's all I've got. Any last parting thoughts?
I just wanted
Stacey?
to say
Yeah.
thank you guys so much for coming to the meeting today. Good luck in Dead Week and finals. Love you guys. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Good luck, everyone. It is it's rough out here. All right. With that, I will adjourn this meeting, this special meeting of the Student Senate, at 4:40 p.m. It's adjourned. Okay. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.